Welcome back to Gaming on the Brain podcast. I'm Mark.
I'm Glenn.
I'm Jamie.
And today we're going to be taking a look down memory lane, I think, at some of the arcades and the reasons maybe why the arcades lost popularity and that footfall decreased over time. I think it might be a good idea to grab a box of tissues for this one because I think there might be a few tears. And yeah, a beer wouldn't go amiss.
Or several.
Several beers, quite possibly, yes. However, we will try to end on a positive note, if that is possible. So listen to the full lot because I think you might enjoy what's coming up at the end. We'll see you after the intro in about 1 minute. Bye-bye for now.
Let's go!
You've got Gaming on the Brain.
So, Glenn, you wanted to start us off with a little bit of history, didn't you, on this one? Early days of the arcade, I think you were talking about.
The thing is, the arcades are much older than we know them as ourselves.
They're not much older than you. You're old.
Oh, Christ, yeah, and I feel
Actually, Jamie's older.
I don't look it, by the way.
It's been interesting week. If you were born in the 70s, like I was. Late 70s.
Well, that's a relief. I thought you were going to have some kind of Victorian story.
I think then you would have definitely missed the start of the arcades. And if anybody's seen the Tom Hanks classic Big, Zoltar, that machine, the fortune-telling machine, that's the type of contraption you would have expected in arcades at the time. And this was...
Wait, was that in the 70s?
The late 19th century. Born in the 70s as I was, you would have totally bypassed that. So this was completely different from what we know now. A lot of it was mechanical, not so much electronics, but mechanical, hand-driven machines and bagatelle. Gas-powered, maybe water-powered, I don't know.
Do you think they were made to kind of amaze people in a way?
And do you know what there would have been? That's the best way to refer to them as, really. It was more of an attraction than a gear. I mean, some of them weren't in games. I mean, bagatelle is sort of a forerunner to pinball machines as we know it now. And obviously, pinball's big in the 60s, 70s. It's still massive now. Very big. The pinball machines now are so... Well, many of them are like a video game combined with a pinball table. No, that's a topic for another day.
You can still play bagatelle in Chemue.
You can. There is a secret bonus game in that. I know about that. And the machines cost a fortune now as well. But anyway, so the amusement arcades started in the back end of the 19th century. Not going to put an actual year or date on it. And some of the machines would have you basically pay a guy. You'd pay a man. You wouldn't put money in a slot somewhere, but you wouldn't put money in a slot. There'd be a guy standing there. That was his job. And you'd give the guy the cash. And he'd start it up, and it might be...
like a toilet attendant.
Exactly, like a toilet attendant. Now, I could do things with that, but I think I won't. But that's enough about that because that's not what we're here to discuss.
Let's ask a question on it then. Where would those take place? Would they be at the old kind of pop-up fun fairs where you saw the hair?
Yeah, I mean,
that kind of
the thing is,
travelling fun fairs.
I suppose. Well, what they were really, it would tie in more with the actual fun fair rides, and because it's all down a lot of it's down to mechanics. So there would have been a bigger relation between what you'd get at the seaside stuff. Like Bournemouth would have been big for that.
But we used to have a fun fair where we lived, and that would come and turn up. And it would be sometimes the first time I'd see a new arcade machine.
Right.
Because they'd bring them in, open it up, and there it is. So.
And then you'd see. But these, basically, the stuff, it was never going to be really practical, the mechanics break down,
Yeah, of course.
We actually seen some stuff still up until the early mid-80s in some of our local arcades, which were, there were games in a sense that you would get a score, but it would have like a motorbike toy on an actual terrain,
like a belt,
belt. Yeah, so not a conventional arcade game with circuits and that, but mechanical driven. So it's amazing how that was still a thing in the 80s, but they'll definitely die now.
There's a place in Southall, so obviously from down the south, where on that pier, all they have is old
mechanics, which are worth a fortune now.
Well, no, it's not actually, they're not real from that era. But if anyone wants to look it up, there's a pier in Southall in down on the Norfolk coast or Suffolk coast. It's they have weird and wonderful machines.
Yeah, right.
But they're kind of meant to be old, but they're really, really strange. Anyway, just a different.
I think, do you know what it is with me or with those? It's the design that goes into them, and like I say, from a mechanical point of view, you know, like somebody fixing them and that, you're not engineering and that, you know, you have to have the expertise. And
well, imagine trying to find the parts and that now. You'd have a nightmare.
That's great, because there's people out there who can manufacture now and manufacture the exact 3D printing. So it's not as hard as you think. But for us, really, and it's still, again, before my time, by a few years, the first true arcade machine, I will give you a year this time, the first true arcade video game was Computer Space. That was created by Nolan Bushnell and Ted Dabney in 1971. And that was a true arcade game, but I think it would work on a logic board system. So I don't know electronics really, so it still wouldn't be like it wouldn't be Jammer, you know.
Wasn't microprocessors.
Yeah, microprocessor. It wouldn't be what not a day, but it was a cabinet, and you would put money in it, and it would play a game. You know, a simple game. But that was just the start. I mean, after that we had some classics which are a lot more mainstream than Computer Space because the cabinets are so rare now. Classics like Pong, Breakout, Gunfight. And I'm going to mention Death Race, even though it's a really obscure and rare game. It's quite controversial, so that might actually come up in a future topic.
Right.
Okay. But really, that's all I'm going to say about these about the early days of gaming. That's where it started, video arcade gaming. Anyway, I mean, what we really want to talk about as well is our favourite eras of the games.
We've got to go into our own favourite eras.
Yeah, we do.
I think the three of us have a different idea of what our favourite era is.
Well, what we've done is, Mark, I mean, we've not, like me personally, I don't even have it's not like I love 1980 to 1990 or 1990 to 2000. My personal favourite era, which is actually about a decade, to be funny enough, starts around about 86, 87, and I started to lose interest by about 1995 myself. Got a PS1, which obviously was a great machine, and you were getting games at that point, apart from loading times, but you were getting near arcade perfect classics or games that were going beyond the arcade, which massively impressed me, you know. But
there's definitely, I think there's probably an overlap in all of our eras around that time, because for one, we're all a similar age. Well, it's been pointed out I'm a bit older, but we're all of that kind of age where we were going to arcades, so we will definitely all have an overlap, and it comes then down to genres or how lucky you were in the area you lived.
Oh, true. Well, we had such a diversity of different arcades. I mean, obviously we had Bella's down Walker, which tended to have some slightly older machines, and I don't mean that in any way of an insult.
Because they had Boot Hill. Do you remember that one?
Boot Hill, that was funny enough. One of the games I've mentioned here, Gunfight Boot Hill, is a sequel to that.
I love that. You used to knackers every time on it though, but it was great.
Two-player though. I mean, it was like a party game. You know, it was an early, two-player versus game where you basically couch multiplayer before it became a thing, you know. I think you got us a couple of times. Like it's when that quote went up in the middle of the screen, like, you know.
If you could have ran yourself over with the coach, that would be me getting killed.
Couldn't he move up? No, I think you couldn't get that far forward.
In fairness, I was probably only about 3, so it was basically
probably couldn't reach the cabinet.
Is it true that you lied to him and told him you got across Frogger by jumping in the water?
That's the kind of thing he would do.
The crocodile when the mouth's open. But even though I've just said my personal favourite era was around about 87 to 95, give or take a year or two, the first arcade game that actually impressed me was, funny enough, Spy Hunter, which I believe is 1983, maybe 82, just because it was so damn hard, right? So I was crap at it, but the game just impressed us. I just loved the dynamic of it, and I loved the theme. I mean, the spy theme and
Is it your dark hair and you think you're James Bond?
I like to think I was at the time, but I was just shit. It wasn't until I got the Commodore 64 version I could do anything with it. I just could not play the arcade at all. But the first sticking with me era, being a bit more stricter to it, you know I was going to mention this because I always wanted to. The first game that truly impresses, and the first game for me that made me believe that the arcades were just starting to slip a little bit, just a bit.
Don't tell us. Golden Axe.
Golden Axe.
Golden
Axe on the Mega Drive. Golden Axe on the Mega Drive. I mean,
that wasn't rehearsed. Anyone?
was not actually.
Not at all. Now, I mean, you might be wondering if you listen to this. So why is he gone from arcades to home? Well, this is important because it is really relevant to our topic of the day. Golden Axe on the Mega Drive just blew me away massively. Just with the extra content, which back in 1989, 1990 was just absolutely unheard of. Arcade games, great. The Mega Drive version doesn't feel exactly like the arcade. So
you're going to give this podcast a new name. It's going to be the Golden Axe podcast.
I just
comes
thought
up in
that
every
game,
episode.
Every episode.
You could have an episode about I don't know, push chairs. Golden Axe will somehow fit into it.
So I know I'm new, but I'm thinking of the swear jar, but it's the axe jar.
The Golden Axe jar.
Could definitely work with it.
I like the idea of that.
The thing is, it was a game. It was just at that time in like 1990 to have a game that went beyond. I mean, we grew up on like Commodore 64 and VIC 20 and stuff.
Yeah.
The game. Excuse me. The games were like nowhere near even halfway as good as the arcade. Often they had cut content. They wouldn't have the same controls because you're working on a one-button joystick. So when you got the Mega Drive and that, and you're playing a game that like is pretty close to the arcade, and then decides to go even further and give you like a dual mode and whatnot as well.
It excelled, didn't it? Over the arcade.
It's like again sticking with the Mega Drive games like Altered Beast, which some people don't like, but Mega Drive conversion,
I think
it's near arcade perfect.
I take your point on board without a doubt, because for me, it's Street Fighter.
Street Fighter, Super Nintendo.
And that came out, and it wasn't just that. You could go and buy an arcade stick. So when you talk about using your pad,
but that game felt so great and all though. I mean,
and we all had these tiny little TVs in our bedrooms that were at least 14-inch, which made the graphics feel better than they probably really were with the sprites.
Do you know what wasn't all though? With just sticking with Street Fighter 2 for a second though. I remember playing it on like the Amiga. I mean, there was a Commodore 64 version and all. There's a Specky version.
Oh god!
And I mean, they were beyond abysmal. I mean, there was no effort made. I like they were taking the piss, to be honest, when they made the games. Like, quite, this is the number one game of like 1991.
Yeah.
And there were conversions were coming out around about 92, 93. And it was like, you need to really not drop the ball on this because it really is a big deal. And although the Amiga version, generally looked a bit like it. I'm sure
it didn't play anything like it.
Nothing like that.
Because of one button control as well.
You can't blame that. I mean, that is, unfortunately, that is what you've got at the time. You've got to deal with it. Although Mortal Kombat managed to do quite well. The early Mortal Kombat one too on the Amiga.
What I find is that you mentioned Golden Axe, right? But they added so much extra content, but we queued to buy Street Fighter, and they had added nothing to that.
They didn't need to, though. That was perfect as it was.
We all finished it in the arcade though, so we knew what we were getting, but we didn't care because we suddenly had that arcade at home.
So are you saying, Glenn, that for you, like your interest in the arcades waned then, or was it more like...
that's the funny part. No, not at all. My interest actually increased because... So I know we generally want to get onto the death of the arcades here.
Well, we're kind of rolling it in with it as the way I see it, because it's when did you see it declining kind of thing?
Well,
is where we're getting
that was the thing. I only saw a sliver of it in 1990 or 1991 roughly. I mean, it was just because of those improved games. I mean, but what it did for me personally, I mean, I ended up actually wanting to spend more time with the arcade games as well. So we didn't have a Mega Drive at the time.
No, we didn't.
We're still stuck with the Commodore. It was one of the lads who knew had a Mega Drive. So I couldn't have that experience still, couldn't afford it. So I would obviously play the arcade games more. So in the case of Golden Axe, I'd go down and I'd be like, right, well, all right, it's missing a couple of levels, but it's still great. It's the arcade game, like 10 pence where we went as well. So I'd pump more money into the machine and master it. Another classic that I loved, Crackdown, another great Mega Drive game, which is actually better in the arcades there. It looks better. And
much better
there's
presentation.
A few changes. There's a couple of different levels and a couple of new enemies and stuff, the Mega Drive, but the arcade is superior there, obviously because it was on a quite a powerful hardware.
System
24 was great monitor, medium res monitor and on it, looked fantastic, big screen, and brought the characters to life, even though they're like little sprites, like Gauntlet, but they look great. But I played the Mega Drive version, didn't own it at the time, brought me back the arcade. But
just to touch on something there, and I'd like to add to that, is you brought up Gauntlet, something I didn't think about before the episode, but no matter what console we had at home, they pretty much were two-player. So did it take you back to the arcade to play Gauntlet, Turtles, stuff like that? Because we could all play together.
I'm pleased you mentioned Gauntlet. I'm pleased you mentioned Gauntlet, Jamie, because Gauntlet 4 on the Mega Drive
was 4-player.
It was 4-player. Now,
we had an adapter.
When I bought that, I had that. If you remember,
did it not have the built into the cartridge like the Codemasters?
No,
Was
it
it?
didn't. No.
Ah.
But what Gauntlet 4 did, it did exactly. I mean, it was a bit later. It came at 93, I believe. And in Japan, I think it's just called Gauntlet. So it's Gauntlet 4 over here. But it is its own game as well. Gauntlet 4 was great because it came with a NeoPixel. It should be Pixel Perfect. 1985, the original Gauntlet. It come with a NeoPixel and orally perfect version of Gauntlet the arcade game, Gauntlet 1. No, nothing from Gauntlet 2 at all, although they could have done. That's okay though. So all the enemies of Gauntlet 1 and the mazes and stuff. But it also had a really cool duel mode where you could basically, like Bomberman, have 4 players fighting each other, shooting at each other's stuff and getting score. There was another mode, I think it might be in a time attack, but the main meat of Gauntlet 4 was a pure quest mode. And it had 5 separate towers, each tower had a different dragon boss, and you had to get items. It wasn't a case of just get through the dungeon and get to the end like the classic Gauntlet arcade game. You would have to visit one tower and you'd have to take objects and stuff. It was an RPG, it was an action RPG. Yeah, it was and it really, that was where the Gauntlet 4 came from, because it was its own game as well. But we'll talk about content and that. Look at the content there. That's 1993. Look at that extra content. Yeah, a game from 8 years prior, but it's like, that is just overload on content, to make a fantastic game. So again, seeing those conversions just absolutely blow away the originals.
Is why would you need to go and play the original?
Exactly, especially when you're the NeoPixel.
If you're great at it and you want to flex in front of someone or something, that's the only reason. Like Double Dragon, I'd pump. If I say the Double Dragon cabinet now, I'd stick a quid in, or whatever it would be, just so I could complete it in one credit.
So the same, would you still be able to do it? Is the question.
Yeah, just to show off the Ellie or something.
Yeah.
Be like, watch this.
Again, sticking with me era though. I mean, obviously, so I went into the 90s and that through the 90s, and I also saw great. I mean, I know we mentioned the Mega Drive a lot here, but that once we did get the Mega Drive, that was a console we spent a lot of time with, and I saw some great conversions.
What you grew up with is, it's one of those, isn't it? You're always going to come back to it.
Well, I'm going to mention 2 more games, just sticking with the Mega Drive for a second, even though, and for 2 different reasons. So we had like classics like Revenge of Shinobi, which wasn't in the arcades at all. I think it was on the Megatech system or the Mega Play system.
Yeah,
but that's technically, it's hard to class them.
I don't class it as arcade.
Yeah, it's just a Mega Drive hardware, and the timer as well, which they were never popular, there should have been a pure arcade version. So you had like Revenge of Shinobi, which was basically Mega Drive exclusive. You had a Mega Drive exclusive version of Shadow Dancer that wasn't the
I love Shadow Dancer.
Classic as well, another great one.
Better than the arcade version again,
different, but almost a sequel, really, isn't it? It's such a different game.
Yeah.
So you had some great versions that were never in the arcade, so that didn't help the arcade situation at all. Another game which this is going to get some. This might not be everyone's favourite.
No, do it. Let's call
I personally love the Mega Drive version of Pit Fighter.
Oh, God.
Its sprites are tiny. It's got no sprite scaling.
Can I just be completely honest?
I'll mention that the sprites are tiny again.
Can I be honest here, people? If you're listening to this, I do not like any version of Pit Fighter, and these guys are trying to
Jimmy,
re-educate me.
If you did, you should have read the small print on your contract that said you're not allowed to dislike Pit Fighter.
We're going to get to this. We're going to get to this. It's going to happen. But we played it. I mean, to be honest, in some ways, I preferred the Mega Drive version. I mean, to look at it was shite, but it was just a bit slow. It was a bit easier, and it made it more playable for me. So I personally have great memories of Pit Fighter.
It's maybe a bit more playable than the arcade, but the arcade was super impressive at the time.
It is for the time.
Yeah, I say I don't like it, but when I saw it, I did like it.
You look at it now, and I mean,
if you play it with us, you'll love it.
The missing frame on 3 plates, great. The missing frames.
Eddie battle.
You look at it now, and it's got that charm, I suppose, with the jank, but the arcade version I'm even talking about here, the SNES is the true nadir of Pit Fighter, which we've got some videos on that one.
Never ever mention that game ever again.
But for me, so we'll move on from that because that was my era. I did get Super Nintendo and had great games like Super Double Dragon, which I love. But I don't have a lot of great games for the SNES because I think I got the SNES around at the same time as I got the PS1 or a bit earlier.
There was some truly outstanding ports.
There was.
Not Final Fight because that was a letdown.
It plays good though. It does play good still.
Only 2 player.
It's a 4 meg cartridge, I think that's what they've done there. So it's a shame.
There was, there was a few shooters and that.
You went Squadron. Oh, well, I'll tell you one game though. They had, sticking with the Capcom stuff, they had Super Ghouls and Ghosts, which is its own game, It's not a version of Ghouls and Ghosts. It's its own standalone sequel.
Captain Commando made it on there, didn't it?
It did, but it's late. 1995 for both of them. 94 maybe for Nights Around. And they were both I think it was Knights. I don't think Captain Commando came out in America, but Knights of the Round definitely did, and they were good conversions. But by 94, 95, they should have been.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still talking about arcade games that came out in 91, and you wouldn't get 4-player on Captain Commando still, or 3-player on Knights of the Round.
No.
But there were good conversions.
I think it ties in really with when you think the arcade might have depreciated, because I am a Nintendo man, but there might not have been the games that were in the arcade, but then I was playing things like Cybernator. I think games from Konami that were coming out.
Konami's great Contra games, though, the SNES exclusive Contra.
And it just, you're actually getting what you thought should be in the arcade, not what was. And that's,
For me, I think I've probably said it before, maybe not in the podcast, but definitely on the channel. Going back to the Mega Drive, the biggest omission from the arcade, Streets of Rage 2. How could you not make an arcade?
Do you know
version
what
of
it
that
is,
game?
Mark? I couldn't believe. Well, it works two ways. It works two ways. This because I couldn't believe the drop. I'm going to mention another classic. I couldn't believe the drop the ball so big on that, because it could have made a fantastic Streets of Rage arcade game. And at one point there was if you go on Clove, KLOV,
Killer List of video games,
and check that out. There's an entry for Streets of Rage, and it mentions the oil rig level and stuff, and it's like, Now the closest Sega came to Streets of Rage in the arcade was 2 games, actually, 2 of your favourites, in fact. Riot City, Japanese exclusive, which I don't hate, but it's not up there. It's a fan fight clone with everything ripped out. But
including the fun.
And that came out in 1991, though, so it's like, what happened? Why did you do Streets of Rage? But they also did a really bad game for System 18, I believe, and that was DD Crew, and that just
Crew, yeah.
It doesn't. The combat system and everything is just completely off. It's just a weird game. Riot City actually plays like a Final Fight clone, so you've got that style of fight.
Different point of view on why they didn't do it. So for me, you're going to the first
console, mate.
You're going to the first part of this is exclusive.
Yeah,
this is exclusive. Why does Jamie, who's a Super Nintendo man, want to buy a Mega Drive? Because he wants to play Streets of Rage.
Do you not think even if they had released it in the arcade, would you still not have said, well, I want it at home?
But well, actually might want it more.
That's where
That's a great point.
Because then you would have actually played
They could have made the 2 versions a bit different. You could have had a couple of different levels, maybe a different just like...
I think they should have. They should not have made like an arcade version that's a like for like.
Well, look what they did again, going back with the game I mentioned earlier. Look what they've done with Golden Axe. I mean, you had 2 very different series running from the arcade and the Mega Drive. And in fact, Golden Axe also had spin-off games on the Master System and the Game Gear, which were totally unrelated to the other games as well, like Axe Battler and Golden Axe Warrior, which were their own thing as well. So I think they were going for exclusivity, which it's in itself not a bad business model.
But it's crazy.
But you could have still had conversions of obviously Streets of Rage, especially Streets of Rage 2, which you could have put it on a System 32 board.
Yeah,
because at the same time as Golden Axe Revenge Death Adder.
Yeah.
And that is just so impressive. Now,
who would you say is an arcade producer you're looking for when you go into an arcade? You hear that music. For me, I'm looking for Konami.
Turtles.
I'm looking for Capcom
Sega.
And Sega. So it's crazy that a Sega-made game wouldn't have gone in there. That's what crossed my mind just then.
I am surprised they didn't do something, but they could have even made an exclusive adventure for the arcade, like they've done with Golden Axe.
That's what I would have hoped for,
maybe have a little bit crossover in there, some similar. They've done it with it's been done with many other games. I mean, with the Golden Axe series, I said you have like the Revenge of Death Adder, which how that didn't get ported to say the Saturn, which would have been later anyway. The Mega Drive would have done a weak port, I think. Some say Golden Axe 3 is almost Mega Drive's version of Revenge of Death Adder. I mean, it's not really, but there's some, there's like the roots and that. There's some elements there, but it's a different game, obviously, But Revenge of Death Adder would have probably come out around at the same time as Golden Axe 2 on the Mega Drive. And obviously, they're totally different games, Personally, I like 2, some don't. But again, so it looks like they were going for this, like, we want to keep the arcades separate. I can see where they've come from. And it's not a really bad business decision, but it wouldn't be good for people who say, well, I want to play that game at home, or I want to have an arcade version of that game as well, if they want to play it. But for me, I start to see the deaths of the arcades by about 1995, I think. And like I say, I think with the PS1 coming out and the Saturn, I mean, I know the Saturn didn't do as well and died at earlier death, but it still had some fantastic conversions, especially some of the Capcom stuff and some of the Sega stuff, obviously. Not all the Sega stuff though. Like Virtua Fighter was not perfect, but it was a very playable and good port. Daytona, not so much. But by the time they were releasing things like Sega Rally, though, they'd grasped it, and they had I know this is a quite irrelevant game, really, but their version of Golden Axe the Jewel is really good. And if you did like that game, I mean, it's an irrelevant game. It is. It's just.
It's a really good port.
It's a really good port. And I mean, if you did again. It bypassed me totally in the arcades anyway.
Yeah.
But they proved that they could do good 2D fighters. So by the time they're releasing the Capcom stuff, they were just blowing people away.
What about graphics for you in the arcade? So I think we all know what a 2D fighter looks like, what a beat 'em up looks like, and then suddenly for me something called Dragon's Lair popped up. Now, it wasn't a brilliant game, but when I looked at it, it was a cartoon.
Do you know what it is, though?
Just something different,
I think with that, I mean, obviously, it's just the funny thing is, I was looking at a magazine today, it was talking about stuff like this, and this was from 1993, Dragon's Lair from about 83, so a decade prior, and it's like, it is massively impressive. I mean, obviously, yes, it's just a QTE game, but still, I mean, in 83, you were looking at stuff like Gallagher and Pac-Man and that.
Yeah,
I mean,
and then you see that.
And you see that. And it's like,
I was watching He-Man on the telly and it was close to being in an arcade.
Yeah.
But mind you, those cabinets, they're saying that they were very, very unreliable. Like, so they're hard to come by now. And obviously they were replacing the laser disc with. What were they replacing it with? I know it was more reliable what they put in there. But that's. To look at them though back in the day, and the crazy thing is even into the 90s, I mean, look at the stuff on the Mega CD and that, like Sewer Shark and Road Avenger and all that stuff by Digital Pictures, like Supreme Warrior and Ground Zero Texas, Night Trap, which is obviously one we're going to touch on in the future.
But I guess if you talk about that, then it brings me on to Mad Dog McCree.
Yeah,
and
Mad
Dog games.
That was
I've got a love-hate relationship with that game.
The thing about Mad Dog, though, that was still a proper game. I mean, it wasn't fully interactive. Yeah, everybody popped up in the same place, but then they did in like Lethal Enforcers and stuff, which was digitized sprites. So it was really good. It was a proper game. It wasn't just QTE.
I'd always argue really that shooting games for the SNES was awful because it was a great big gun and there was hardly any.
Two games on the SNES I like, though, mine. There was two games I liked, and that was. Battle Clash and I can't remember the name of the sequel, but Battle Clash anyway, it's got a sequel as well. Falcon's Revenge. And they're like, you use the bazooka, but you're fighting mechs. So you've got a mech on the screen, you have to blow off little bits and take guns off and take parts of them down strategically, take them apart.
But I would say then when the Saturn come out, when the PlayStation, suddenly you could buy Time Crisis. And there was still games in the arcade that I couldn't play at home with a Mega Drive or SNES.
But this was the thing though, Jamie, sticking with even just the PS1 for a sec, obviously, because I had a lot more. Yeah. I've got a Saturn now and I've got a few games that I love, or one game I love. But with the PS1, I mean, everything that came out, I mean, take Ridge Racer, what you said the other day, yes, it's a lower resolution, doesn't look as good as the arcade. Slightly more jaggy with the frame rate. So it's not a one-to-one conversion, but it didn't need to be. What you had there for 40 quid, 35 in.
The
best Ridge Racer I played for me at the time.
Ridge Racers
on my PSP.
Yeah,
Ridge Racers.
I got my PSP. I got it from Japan. It turned up. I booted up Ridge Racer because it's on a small screen, and I thought, Jesus, they've got a PlayStation in my pocket.
Yeah, Ridge Racer 2 was really impressive.
I'd head on that. I love TM head on.
I mean, so trying to pinpoint here for you what you thought the decline of the arcades was. What would have been it when like the PlayStation and the
PS1,
Saturn?
Absolutely, and Saturn to a lesser degree, only because I didn't have one or play one at the time. But looking back now and looking at magazines and obviously looking at long plays and playing some of the games, definitely for Saturn, right? It's the 2D stuff. So even though VF was good and they released like Virtua Fighter Deluxe, which was good as well, and the games were Virtua Fighter 2s on Saturn as well. I mean, they didn't look as good, but they played great and people loved them.
Marvel vs. Capcom is just
Marvel vs. Capcom, all that, anything from like I know again, stick generally with Capcom. So you've got like Children of the Atom, you've got Marvel Superheroes, Marvel vs. Street Fighter, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, as you just said, MVC one. And obviously, I think the only thing that worked against the Saturn was so many of the games I've just literally mentioned didn't make it to the UK. the first couple did, you know. And after that, you've got like Cyberbots and that, which we played the prequel the other week, didn't we? Great looking 2D games that just look fantastic. The fact this shows how good the 2D stuff was. No longer is people saying, "Oh, that game looks now like the arcade." They're looking to see what frames are missing.
Yeah,
so it's like, there's
things like Marvel Super
that shows how close they are, that you've got to start picking on a game just because it's missing frames.
Final Fight Mega CD, I remember, like, you know...
But it looks different, though.
The music was better.
Far fantastic,
yeah, the graphics were a little washed
different.
out.
They had that different look about them,
but the animation, it was like missing a few frames, and that was the biggest miss for me in that
was
game.
A great cover.
You know?
But mind you, Ian just mentioned that game for second Final Fight CD again. Full game there, which SNES didn't, but I won't hold that against the SNES because of the time and the cartridge size. Full game on the disc, all 3 characters, all 6 levels, fantastic soundtrack. Sit and play that and listen to the soundtrack for ages, I confess. But that even had a little extra mode, a time attack mode with some new backgrounds. I mean, not a massive amount of extra content, but in 1993, extra content still, you know.
Yeah, so, made an effort.
And it was a beautiful beat. Well, I played that religiously. I bought the Mega CD for that one game.
Conversation last time about what our favourite machine was, and I said to me it was Dreamcast. And Dreamcast because 3D fighting games on the Dreamcast
that killed the arcades.
Were basically as good as an arcade. The Saturn didn't have that.
Yeah.
It was
I think by the time the Dreamcast came,
brilliant 2D games like the arcade, but by the time they had made the Dreamcast, it was to play games like that were amazing.
Well, what I saw with this again with the Saturn, like I say, so the 2D stuff was great. They had the 4 and the 8 megabit RAM, so there's some great SNK stuff as well. Mind some KOF games were fantastic.
If I may jump in here, just like coming from a more technical side, so like where the Saturn and the PlayStation had generally compromised
definitely
versions,
the PlayStation, which I'll get into in a second,
of the arcade. When it comes to 3D, not
3D,
so much the 2D.
No. 2D definitely needs touching on in a big way, actually, on PlayStation.
On the PlayStation,
Capcom games again,
generally overall, I think 2D, they were kind of mastering it on the consoles by 94, 95.
Definitely, yeah.
But the 3D, obviously the arcades were still far more powerful.
Yeah.
Like the Namco System
you had the
22.
feel. You had the feel. The games felt like the arcade now. They felt the same.
They did.
So you were all... I mean, at the end of the day, and as we discussed before, in 94, games were costing £1.
Yeah, but
some 50 pence.
I don't think that for a home console, people really understood how to design the mechanics of a 3D game. And I would argue they never did it until Mario 64.
I think we're still getting the grips, definitely, until Mario 64.
I don't want to jump the gun here because I'm going to touch on this when I talk about my favourite eras. But trying to break it down from a technical point of view, I think they were still compromising at PlayStation 1 and Saturn.
Yeah.
Dreamcast was the point where there was no compromise anymore.
That's it.
And if anything, I think the Dreamcast surpassed many of the arcade versions as well.
Something else. With the Dreamcast, you had Crazy Taxi and the Crazy Box and all that. You know, with the Dreamcast, you had arcade conversions that looked exactly like the arcade, and again, you had extra material, extra content. So it was like, right, that's it now.
And now,
it's 99,
look at where that came from. Sega, right, who was one of the biggest names in arcade,
killed themselves.
Released a console that was basically arcade hardware. In fact, the arcade Naomi systems and stuff. Can't remember which one came first.
Yeah.
But one of them, it was essentially a Dreamcast.
Naomi slightly more powerful, though.
Very slightly, I think. Yeah, like a little bit. Atomic Wave. Naomi.
Yeah, that's side.
Naomi 2 was more powerful, but then they eventually went to like the Sega Model 1 and stuff like that. That was before.
Well, I'll quickly touch back on the PS1 and then we'll call it on my era, basically. So, games like the first 2 Tekkens and, say, Ridge Racer with all the extra cars, 12 cars in Ridge Racer, one in the arcade.
Tekken, I believe, surpasses the arcade version.
It was endings and all. I had extra characters that weren't in the arcade. You had endings for characters. I mean, Virtua Fighter, a great game, but Virtua Fighter, you've got like 8 characters. Why have they not got endings? Street Fighter 2 had endings. Street Fighter 2 World Warrior, the original Street Fighter 2, had endings for characters. Like, why would you not put even just a scrolling text, just some lore, some fiction for the characters?
If you look at Sega's early attempts though at 3D, like Model 1, with like Virtua Racer, Star Wars and stuff like that, there were maybe tech demos is a good way to say it.
For you, though, right? Yeah. Go right. So we'll take Ridge Racer, literally just Ridge Racer 1, the original, and compare against PS1 for a second. So, in the arcade, Ridge Racer had 3 tracks, didn't it? Did you unlock the time trial as a 4th, or was that not even in the arcade? You had your beginner, your intermediate, and your expert track, didn't you?
Advanced.
And I always found that to be a complete swindle, right? Because it was £1, because there's
Yeah.
There's a stand-up cab and there was a sit-down cab, but I only ever seen the sit-down, to be fair, which is the deluxe. So yes, you're paying for the experience as well. So it's £1, right? And you can't complete the game as such. If you want to complete, you've got to pay at least £3. Every single track was its own playthrough, and then your game would be over. So you can either pay, maybe £3.
It's an experience, isn't it?
It's an experience. It is, but still, people were like, "Well, I want this at home." It's like, well, so the game costs £40, and it's got the home game, way more material, and pretty much the same experience apart from the physical side. And you're like, well, why would I ever go back to arcades there? So it's things
it was definitely one nail in the coffin. I think.
Definitely a big nail. So that's, as I said, my era said from roughly 87 to 95, maybe give or take a year, 96.
So would you say you pretty much stopped going to the arcades altogether, like by like 95?
Absolutely. In fact, you know what it was? I went to Mr. B's in the Metro Centre, and the only reason I went to Mr. B's was because I had a Golden 2. I bought the cabinet, but to play, I think I bought it around might have been about 95, 96 actually.
I think we would all.
But I still played it.
I think we would all go to an arcade just to look to find the machine we used to play. There's none of us that would go there to find something new, because an arcade now, I'm probably jumping the gun here, is for kids to win ticket machines and buy Haribo by whacking a bowl.
We definitely got to go at the time.
There's only a few new games, if anything.
I have a very different opinion, which I will share.
Okay.
Later. Do you want to go next on your era, Jamie, or do you want me to go?
I'll have a go, because you were
So
I'd say a lot of crossroads with you, I think. But so early days for me, it would have been the slightly older games, Double Dragon. Everyone loved Double Dragon.
Yeah.
I'd play Hypersports.
See, I could never get into them. I was just shouting at them, and I found them to be not very much of an experience, just because it was all the way hitting buttons. I know there's many who loved them.
Yeah, you see, this is where, unfortunately, you let yourself down, because if you got half a Kinder Egg, you could really get going on that. That's it. But the trouble is, you do that, right, and then break the machine. So that, a game I absolutely loved, me and a couple of mates, King of Boxer was just absolutely brilliant. Yeah. Very much like a Punch-Out imitation.
That was Sega, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. It was. I don't think it was. It's a random one. But
I'll have to look in.
But like I say, we used to generally, we had one arcade in our town. It was called Murray's. He didn't have a massive selection of games, and including it's tiny. No, tiny. And every now and again, he would bring out. He'd like bring in one extra, but like you guys would say, you see the cabinet change and Pit Fighter turns up. It didn't always happen for us. It would just have to change the board.
The change the
Street Fighter was just a board change.
Great, standard.
But yeah, we would, that sort of thing. And then we'd go on holiday though, and it would just be arcade after arcade after arcade, and that would be our day, just spending in the arcade. But so I loved those games, and then it moved on for me into Daytona. I wasn't a massive fan of Virtua Racer, but
do you know what it is? I'll be honest with you, I wasn't impressed by the look of it at the time.
No,
I think because it came out early enough that I wasn't bothered about 3D. It was about 2 years later. Even Virtua Fighter 1, I looked at the graphics and I was like, I remember laughing at it and thinking it just looks stupid because everyone looks like they made of cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
It's still a pioneer of its time.
Model 1 did feel like a tech demo.
So I was still way more blown away by just beautiful 2D, hand-drawn 2D.
I think what you said was interesting about being ripped off at the arcade around Ridge Racer. So you wanted to play Ridge Racer for sure, but you could eventually get it on the home console. And the point I was trying to make is then suddenly PS1 made me another racing game, so Gran Turismo.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it came out right.
It gave me hours of fun for £40.
Yeah. Gran Turismo came out roughly overlapping with the Dreamcast era, wasn't it, in '98? So you've got you've got a game there that will just destroy anything in the arcades, because nothing in the arcades was have that much content, Yeah. And by the time GT2 came out, about 300 odd cars, I think, or 400 not even. It was 165.
I also found games as they got later in the arcades to be a bit of a rip-off, really. I'd put £1 in, and you guys go back to things like Crackdown or Golden Axe, and you could master it, right?
Yeah.
And it was almost an achievement. Here it comes, he can do this, right? So no matter what I put in there, I'm going to beat 4 people on Virtua Tennis, and then it's over. Or I'm going to have 20 minutes on Daytona.
Yeah, this is the Ridge Racer syndrome I'm talking about.
Or but then I could have played Outrun And if I'd have played it well...
And if you're good, you could beat the whole game.
Yeah. And so arcades, to a degree, in my opinion, killed themselves in... The way that they want you on and off of a machine, and once you've played it and you're not that impressed by what you get for your money, you've had enough.
That was the whole point, though, wasn't it? So it was turn around. So every arcade machine, when you release it, it's like, this arcade machine is going to have people queuing to play it.
Yeah.
That's why everybody releases an arcade machine surely thinks, right?
That's why it goes back to a lot of those, starting with games like Outrun, really. I mean, there was earlier than that, yes, but definitely Outrun was a pioneer. Having a game that's an experience, Afterburner, and I love Thunderblade. I just love the idea behind Thunderblade.
Afterburner, if you were that good, you could play all 16 levels or whatever it is, you know.
It had the movable cabinet, didn't it?
Yeah.
That was just like, I was Tom Cruise for that 10 minutes.
Well, does anyone remember the G-Lock and that, and coming in the 360, which is expensive as hell, mine. The full 360 cab, that's a true ride.
What conversion was it? A Thunder... A chopper game.
Thunderblade.
Yeah.
That
ended up coming to
I love that. I wanted one then, because there was Crow's Nest had one, and it's just because it would turn all the way. It wasn't just doing this, or you're feeling a rumble, the thing would turn left and right. It's like, this is fantastic.
I think you've got to try and differentiate.
Right, they've got Gale Race or something, right?
You've got to try and differentiate between what is an experience machine and what is an actual arcade game.
Good point.
And I think like Outrun is an experience machine. You play one course, you get through your path, you get to the end, right? 5 minutes, you're done, right? Something like Afterburner, if you're that good, you could play it all the way through, and it's like quite a 20 minutes play
decent
time.
Game,
easy. Yeah. So but we were still seeing a balance of these in the early 90s. Yeah. But by I think 1995,
it's gone.
That's gone. You know, you're talking about the likes of Ridge Racer. Sega Rally was probably the outlier. Yeah. Where if you put a quid in and you were that good, you could get all 4 stages done. You know.
Well, I think Glenn's raised the point to me before, sort of privately, and with you, Mark, about how floor space was expensive in an arcade.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Yes.
Yeah, and the way that the price
of the deluxe cabinets.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it wasn't.
I never realised till you spoke to me.
Oh yeah, I mean, these weren't just like maybe double the price of a jammer. I mean, you could get jammers for hundreds, and these things would cost multiple thousands. You know.
For me, it's like it brings us back to playing Theme Park on the Amiga back in 1995, for example.
Yeah.
If you put a ride on there, you're guaranteed 50 people on it at a time, right? You're going to make a certain amount of money.
Yeah.
But you could put 4 equally good smaller rides in that place that were very popular and make 4 times the amount of that. So that's what your arcade operator was dealing with, wasn't
he? Say with the cabinets with the jabber cabs and all, as you mentioned, it wasn't even a case of just shifting the cab out. It was just switching the board over, and it was great. You know?
Now we're getting meaty boys. This is the kind of conversation I was hoping for.
You know, well, this is it. But I said, but the deluxe though, they look great on the floor though. I mean, they do look fantastic. Just like I said, even taking out.
You walk past an arcade and you see the deluxe machines. You go in the arcade.
Well, do you know what it did to me? For me personally, it made us think that arcade's modern and up to date and they've got money, so they might have other modern games in there that I haven't seen yet.
All about attraction.
Yeah,
that's the main headline.
They're beautiful and they were loud and flashy, and I think lights gone and whatnot.
I think there's still an edge of that globally, where these big, massive arcades where there's not as many anymore. But if you travel to there's some you can pay X amount and go in and play all day. And they don't care what machines they've got because they've already got the turnover when you walk through the door.
That's it,
yeah. So they'll have the old ones we want to play, like Double Dragon, but they'll also have those experience games. I think what you said was perfect.
In the corner.
Well, I think what you said was perfect, though. We went through it was an experience game, not a game you could learn to play.
But again...
learn to play, yes. I mean, like you could play Daytona several times and get better and better at it. And then, you're going to come first every time, but you're not going to be on the machine longer, are you? You're still going to get the same amount of play time. In fact, you'll get less because your lap time's going to get better.
So I've got one question for you, both of you. What was your 3-letter name on any machine you played?
MST.
FAT.
Bat.
Came out in
Bat. BAT.
Oh, Bat.
My mate was Cat and I was Bat. And the thing is, they're going to turn it off at the end of the day and it's all gone.
But I thought, do you know what it is? As said, I'm naturally tight. I am. And when I start seeing games being 50 pence on average,
your arse pocket every time you put 50
Christ,
pence in.
Yeah. I mean, this was about 93, I mean, earlier probably, but definitely once it doubled to £1, it was like, I've got to put £1 in for maybe a minute or 2 minutes at a time, and I would play Double Dragon. I mean, I remember me arse going a bit when it was 20
your voice
pence.
went just then.
Oh, thanks, Dad. Yeah. I start smashing the table in protest. Even when, you know what it is, right? This bores my piss, so I need to get this out now because it's a bugbear of mine. I'd play one day. I'd gone in, right, and I'd be playing Double Dragon. It'd be about 91, I'd been out 4 years and 10 pence every time for 2 lives, which is fine. I'm alright with 2 lives. I like 4, but 2's 10 pence. And then I'd gone in, and it was 2 lives and doubled it at 20 pence. I was like, I've gone back to that.
4 lives. And
if you give us 4 lives, look, if you give us 3 lives for 20 pence, I'll grumble a little bit, but I'll have a slide.
It's a guaranteed completion for me.
Generally,
Take a back elbow, you guys are going to teach me.
Yeah, we can't teach you. We'll play some Double Dragon in a couple of weeks.
But when games were hitting like 50 pence now for a shot, it's like, well, I didn't have much pot money at the time, I'd be like, well, sod it, I'll just wait and I'll just buy the proper game for like my console, which the Mega Drive was those games coming out there then where you're paying 50p for a play of a game. But definitely by the time the PS1 the Saturn was out, games were costing, especially the bigger games, but generally what was the sit-in games like the Deluxe, which I talked about the Ridge Racer, will be always £1. And the anything else like the latest Street Fighter of the time or
I was away with friends.
The 94, 95 be 50 pence a shot.
I was away with friends the other day at a holiday park with my mates. An adult weekend, but some of those machines, sit-down machines now, are £2.
Oh, well, I was just about to get there, Glenn. Ferrari 355, you would have been vomiting all over it. That was £2. 3 screens.
The 3 screens.
Glenn would have just been sick in the seat.
But then if you integrate now, or the price of the games at home, bear in mind, so many people moan about the price of games, like buying a product in a box, even though that's almost impossible. Buying a download. Excuse me. So you pay about 40 quid, but you'd pay £2 to play a game in the arcade. It's like, well, it's getting to the point where why would you ever even bother?
There's a tipping point. Yeah.
Jamie, we got a bit of your era, didn't we?
Yes, I think that's about it, and we've touched on it throughout the conversation. I think so. I've gone from the 2D games, which I always loved, Walk Along Fighters. We spoke about, about Splatterhouse.
There were so many great games, so many of those. They were original and all. I mean, they were still releasing some good brawlers up to about 95.
What I liked about the arcade, I guess, is one thing I really liked was I probably don't play mini driving games right now. I don't even really. I bought FIFA today, funnily, because it's with the release just released. I haven't bought FIFA for 10 years, and I thought, do you know what, I'm going to give it a go. But when I was younger,
I'm not bad.
Oh, cool. But when I was younger, though, if I went to an arcade and something was new, I would play a football game, I'd play a driving game, I'd play a beat 'em up game, and I had that variety of different games where I would try all genres. And now you speak to someone, and you say, "What games do you like?" and they'll go,
COD.
"Yeah, I like a shooter. I'm an RPG man." Whereas back then, I think I liked anything.
Yeah. I think I see what you're saying. Yeah, there's less diversity among what people play now.
I gravitate towards beating them ups myself more than even fighting games. It's
Golden Axe, perhaps.
Do you
like that one?
Axe, yeah.
Probably the king. He's probably the king of them. Do you know what it is? I didn't play Final Fight that much in the arcade because it's quite hard. I spend a lot of money. It gets really hard. They just keep enemies get bombarded and stuff.
Anyway.
It's too long. Golden Axe 2 is the perfect length. There's great. They've done some great things with the theme. Obviously you've got Konami's amazing beat 'em ups as well. Although they're all quarter munchers, but we love stuff like Night Slashers and all. And I want to give a little shout to the Neo Geo and Orcs.
Oh yeah,
although it's beat 'em ups aren't the best. They're not the best. The fighting games are, but the beat 'em ups not the best. But there is a canny little selection with Mutation Nation and stuff, and Robo Army are quite unusual, aren't they?
Neo Geo is one of the
they're not great,
one of the stand-up arcade machines, we'll not mention a console, keeping things alive because of the scaling, wasn't it?
Yeah,
you didn't get that on your home versions.
To me, the Neo Geo was the king of adaptability. You've got a machine that usually has 4 games in at least, and these games aren't just like mini games. Each one's a big game, eh?
Different thing.
Very different, yeah.
So would you kind of agree, Jamie? Like Dreamcast era was like pretty much when that was. It was like almost the final nail in the coffin, you would say, yeah?
For me, that was the end of it because...
Well, you've seen Street Fighter 3 and that, man, and they just look one-to-one, you know?
It's not that. I could buy Soul Calibur 2 and it not only played like an arcade game, it had a story.
Weapon Master Warlord and stuff
and
like
it was
that.
just an incredible game that I got massive value for money from. I could still buy Crazy Taxi, which was exactly like the arcade. My mates could come round and we could all play it, and it weren't like... It was like being in an arcade. So that when that came out, that was the end for me.
Well, when you've mentioned Soul Calibur 2, but even just Soul Calibur 1, but even Soul Edge on paper was we'll stick with the European Soul Blade. Soul Blade, I mean, I've just mentioned the Tekken games without mentioning that, but the amount of that had a whole extra adventure mode and stuff and multiple weapons. That was the first game. It's like wait there, that goes beyond even what Tekken 2 was offering, you know.
So the end of it for me was that. Because I sort of touched on it earlier, but also companies became aware, certainly someone like PlayStation, and then not long after Microsoft, that there was a market for home gaming. And if they could corner that, they could make a massive amount of money. And some developers would come along for the ride, some wouldn't. And some of the people we know very well are not really key players anymore. We mentioned Konami a lot, Capcom even to a degree are not, and that I think that they've commoditized it, made money, and then if you really want to go that far, you're talking about online gaming where you go and play with your mates online. You don't even need to come around my house to play my SNES.
Yeah.
So, but that was graphically that was the end for me because I wasn't getting value for money.
Yeah, well, as I said, and that's what I was feeling a few years prior, a few years earlier.
I fully agree that at that point, I think you were getting parity, if not improvements, on the home console version over the arcade at a certain extent, to a certain extent. So.
Yeah, not perfectly.
However, when I go into my era, I think I've got a bit of different take than you guys. I think we'll save that for after the break because I am bursting for a slash.
Look forward to it.
So we'll see you in about a minute.
Slash and a beer.
Quick interruption, guys, and don't worry, it's only about 45 seconds, which incidentally is about the same amount of time it takes for us to embarrass ourselves in a boss fight. Did you know Gaming on a Brain isn't just a podcast? We're on YouTube as well. Do you want to watch playthroughs? Because we've got them, with and without commentary. Perfect for the kind of person who likes to watch other people press the buttons. How about some Let's Players? I mean, that's just us laughing, dying repeatedly and pretending it was all part of the plan. Our head-to-head series can get very competitive and very heated. And that's where the friendships go to die. But if lists are your thing, then our #5 series has you covered. Think of it like some snack-sized reviews, but without the calories. We're working hard at Gaming on the Brain to bring you as much fun, engaging content as possible. And all we ask in return is a review, a like, a sub, or a cheeky comment just telling us how rubbish we are, and we'll probably respond as well with some equally bad banter. Now let's get you back to the podcast. Hope you enjoy the rest of the show. And we're back. And for me, I think my era, quite naturally, I think I'm the youngest here by a massive amount.
massive.
I think my era probably... I was born in 82, so for me, when I was like 7 or 8 years old, when I was able to actually understand what the hell I was doing, was a good start, okay? So for me, really, I think the first time I seen Turtles in the arcade
it's
in
only
Bella's.
2 years after, but it's my era really there, I mean.
Well, 89, right? So 1989, actually it was probably 1990 by the time Bella's had it in.
Yeah.
And that was like,
the UK might have got
Dad, I really want 10 minutes on it.
It was probably the music straight away. You would be watching the
introduction screen.
Yeah.
The introduction screen.
Do you know what it is, all the graphics and of that? I mean, everything was so caught onto the cartoon. I mean, it looked like you were playing a cartoon, you know?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to attract somebody to play your game, that game smashed it for me straight away.
100%.
Don't get us wrong, I absolutely adore and still do, like Double Dragon and everything, Golden Axe.
Do you know what?
But Turtles, that was the first time I was really drawn.
Leading into what you're saying, though, I mean, the thing about Double Dragon for a second, Double Dragon was nearly always sometimes in some sort of a generic card that didn't involve the artwork.
Yeah.
Turtles was always in that beautiful 4-player card with the colour-coded characters and the big marquee and the blue, the side art. And it was always in its proper card. That's why it
was pure showcase.
I think you forget how
so loud as well.
How big Turtles was. I mean, even like the fact that they wouldn't let us use Ninja in our country.
I know.
They made us use Hero.
Turtles.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is? I never read it at the time. I just didn't even read it. That I was like, I just want to play it, buggered.
Oh no, but what I mean is, if is it?
Don't worry, folks. We've got a censorship episode coming up.
It's not the 20. What is the anniversary of the Turtles films? It's coming out.
1990 was the original film.
It's in America, so yeah, it's supposed to be 35 years. 35-year anniversary, and it's being re-released in cinemas. But that Turtles, not only probably the music drew you to it, it's because of everything else around it at that time, and they nailed the arcade.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is interesting, because it's a Japanese developer nailing a Western property, and literally caught on. The cartoons were Western made. But
so Turtles, I would have said, was my first big draw, right? And there was, Bella's was, I could pretty much go down with my mum, dad. I think I was allowed to go down with you as well at like 8-year-old or 9-year-old or whatever. But I remember, and this is another big milestone for me, right? I went to South Shields, and it must have been about 1993, okay? And I walked into, I don't think it was June's. I think it was one of the smaller arcades down at the bottom of the fair. And I walked in and I heard the Pizza Power theme song from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Turtles in Time.
Right.
And that was the second biggest moment for me. And I tell you what, I was
I don't think I've ever seen that machine.
Oh, mate, I was such a good boy when I was a kid, right? Never did anything wrong. But I tell you what, right? This is not a lie, a complete 100% true story. I am ashamed, okay? The following week, I stole some money out of my mum's purse. I got a bus to South Shields. This would have been about 10-year-old or something, right? To go and play on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was
just you obsessed by it.
Mate, I just had to. It was like, I was so attracted. All I was dreaming about for the week was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 and how I could play it. If I could somehow find some money and be on way to South Shields. And goddamn, I did it. I also used my change to go on the bouncy castle and got a black eye when some kid kneed us in the face. But we'll not talk about that. I did win a coconut as well. Another true story. I bought the coconut home, right? My mum was wondering why there was 20 quid missing out of her purse, or 10 or whatever it was, right? Where did you get the coconut, Mark? I found it on the floor. That was the best I could come up with, so I got busted straight away. Yeah. But it didn't matter because I actually managed to play most of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles too.
I can reveal something here. You weren't busted. Glenn grasped you.
More than likely did, yes.
I didn't know you did this, actually.
Like I say, I was ashamed of it, but I'm happy to tell the world. Anyway. All 5 people that listen.
Yeah, but that shows you the draw, though, of what arcades were.
It was attractive. That's what it was, mate. It was like your first girlfriend that you sneak out to see.
It's not a similar story.
Sneak in the bedroom.
In the same thing for me, though, was, like I say, we didn't have arcades where I lived. And, by the way, thanks for just doing generic areas, because my girlfriend that lives here tells me about certain street names, and having not been here very long, I have no idea what she's talking about.
Yeah.
But... the fair would come, like I say, it would come 3 times a year. And I would beg my mum for a £5. And the same thing, I borrowed £5 and went down just to play the arcade. Because I didn't get the chance that often.
But, the thing is, what we talked about earlier in this podcast.
I don't know how this has gone from retro gaming to confession time.
This is not an episode about retro gaming. This is an episode about arcades and the decline of the arcades, which we're going to get to again in a second.
Right.
We've already done it twice for you two.
Come on, Sam, bring it on.
No, so I loved those, like the likes of that. So I was still all for me stand-up 2D, cabinets and stuff like that. But I think for me, right, I started to get to like 12, 13, 14-year-old, and we were seeing the likes of Ridge Racer and stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Like in most arcades had a copy of Ridge Racer there.
I know definitely about the Crow's Nest and all that, Seldon's and up that way, Seaburn, where they were starting to get the more modern games, weren't they?
I'm a short ass. I'm only 5'7", right? But luckily I hit my height at about 14-year-old. So I was able to reach the pedals on Ridge Racer, like the Deluxe machine and stuff like that. And for me, I think the first time I popped a pound coin in Ridge Racer was the third time. I was like so excited. And I couldn't play for shit. Don't get us wrong. It was terrible. But it was like, this is it. This is what I love. I need this in my bedroom. Obviously, that couldn't happen. We didn't get a PlayStation for another 3 years, I think it was, or something.
No, didn't we get it? Because I remember getting Twisted Metal and Stuck Dot. I think we got it, but 96.
96, well, yes, about 3 years later.
Originally 94, wasn't it?
93, I think, originally.
So, I know but did any of you sort of play the light gunny type games?
Well, I'm going to get to that,
okay, cool.
especially later.
Okay, cool.
So I loved House of the Dead and stuff like that, but there wasn't many in my local arcade.
See, I still started with the earlier stuff like Operation Wolf and that, and I love that.
That was good.
Great game.
Not the same.
Not the same. No. T2 Judgment Day. I managed a few goals on that. Enjoyed that.
I would say that we go to the modern arcade, and there's one machine that kind of still turns up. Light gun games. If you go to an arcade, there might be a new light gun game.
So I found myself more and more drawn into the experience games. Okay. And I mean, Sega Rally, love it in the arcade. I'm actually pretty damn good. And usually on one credit, I can get to at least level 3, usually level 4.
That's decent.
It's such an impressive looking game as well, though.
Well, the first one I was never so hot at. Number 2 and number 3 is where my skills are. I've even got number 3 emulated on Technopart because it's that good.
Nice.
But yeah, so I mean, I've got written down like Ridge Racer, Daytona, Sega Rally, Sega's 18-wheeler. Love that game.
Oh, man.
Fantastic game.
I've never played that.
It's amazing.
It's a great game.
Amazing. The one game I never got a chance to play, which I was gutted about, and I mentioned it earlier, Ferrari F355, because I couldn't bring myself to put £2 in.
And it would have been quite an expensive cab for arcades to buy the setup, you know. That would have been
amazingly expensive, I expect. But I've very much found myself into the experience games and less.
Would you say you didn't mind spending that £1?
I didn't, mate, because it was worth it.
When people, we say early days, you wanted to put in your 20p, maybe your 50p, and you wanted to see how far you could get or see how many people would watch you play. Yeah. Because you had mastered it.
Yeah.
But you were happy to pay the £1 for your 10 minutes.
Kid hanging off the side of your chair watching you play Sega Rally.
See,
Billy, did this you?
Like I said, I couldn't bring myself to do it. I mean, because I was a greedy bastard, I'd be like, wait, that £1, I'm just going to get a bag of chips instead.
No, see, I would probably
play Double Dragon for 10 minutes.
I'd probably do what you did. I'd love to play Daytona, even if it's random people. But I also, virtual tennis, virtual striker. So even though I knew I might get to the 3rd or 4th round of virtual striker, I knew I wouldn't finish it. But it was a game I couldn't play anywhere else.
I was shit at Virtua Striker, but pretty good at Virtua Tennis too at the time, because I had one in the pub next to the college that I went to.
I've never seen them. I've never seen them locally to me. I've never seen those machines.
Now, what I did find, right, probably about the same time you guys have mentioned this, what I was saying before, I agree with you, like the Dreamcast age was like the final nail in the coffin, because that was round about when I got my Dreamcast. I think it was 2000 for £100. It had dropped drastically in price. And I remember House of Dead 2 with my big telly.
Oh, yeah, we had some great experience at again.
Arcade,
fantastic,
fantastic
game.
And when you've got a pretty good setup at home with a decent sized telly, there was no need to go and play the light gun games anymore, because all the best ones were, other than Time Crisis, which was brilliant. But if you had a PlayStation 2 by 2000, you could play Time Crisis on that anyway, So I think for me, I don't want to say this too early because I want it to be my next piece, but I kind of stopped going to the arcades then because I was getting enough at home and I just wasn't having the time then to go to the arcades.
You had a pretty powerful PC at the time and all.
I like light gun games, but only really the novelty wore off almost immediately. My first SNES was a Super Scope pack because I wanted to do it, but I hardly played it, and then I might have bought 1 or 2 light gun games. I've got a couple around my house.
The Super Scope's a funny looking thing.
Oh, it's not great.
Why didn't they just have a normal,
it's terrible. It's a terrible product.
They could have released it with a Magnum and got a Lethal Enforcers.
That's exactly what I was going to mention.
I have a copy of Lethal Enforcers. But what I'm saying is I wouldn't... Home gaming to arcade gaming, buying a light gun game is not a game I play for 2 hours. It just never is.
I played House of Dead back to back over and over again.
Oh, okay. That's interesting in itself.
Virtua Cop, love Virtua Cop.
Yeah,
quite short though.
Brilliant Virtua Cop.
I could finish. I had Virtua Cop on the PC, with the mouse, right, and I could finish that in 15 minutes.
What a game!
But time prices, not
That's going on our list, lads.
Well, yeah, I need to get light guns for my system, but we'll be doing some playthroughs on light guns hopefully early next year. So where was that? Sorry. So I think my interest in the arcades declined. I don't want to say the arcades declined because I think what you'll find is while we were all away from the arcades didn't slow down in terms of like what was popping up. And what I'm trying to say is, the next piece, I never said that was my favourite era because it wasn't. Now is my favourite era. Okay, and that might sound really ridiculous to use two, but I've got one young kid and one kid who's old enough to be competitive with me now at 13 year old. We literally go to the likes of Butlins, we'll go to arcades down Blackpool, arcades down Scarborough.
Well, this leads into what I was mentioning before.
Games together.
It's the Americans call the family entertainment centres now, where so they are popular. They are popular, and it is a redemption machines is a thing, and it's a good thing, I think that's it moves away from what I personally like.
It's a great point, a different way of thinking about it, because did I just get older and started having other interests, girls, pubs, blah, 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 and I left it behind?
And I did for a while, and then when Logan was born, when Logan was probably about 8, so about 5 years ago now.
It's a very interesting take.
We went to like Scarborough and that, right? And honestly, it's immense. So there's a amusement arcade in Scarborough called Olympia Leisure. Some of our listeners might know this. And it's 3 floors of amusement arcade
games.
Didn't know that. And it's gigantic. The place, it's half the length of this street,
wow.
Right? With 3 floors. Okay. Now, if you go in there, they've got Halo, Fireteam Raven, amazing game, right? It's absolutely class.
I already want to go back.
You put your pound in and you're dead in 10 minutes, but you get 10 minutes.
Well,
you've got Walking Dead, which is everywhere. It's still a good game.
But this interests me because I wanted to make a note of this while you're talking about this. I found it kind of interesting that older properties. I mean, Halo's still an older property. We'll go back to 2005. You've got modern versions of games,
because I've still got more to say.
Oh no, it's great.
I do like doing that, to be fair.
Yeah. So just retract that statement for 3 minutes, right?
3 minutes, right.
Tomb Raider. 4-player stand-up pistols, shooting everything based on the Xbox 360 generation Tomb Raider. Absolutely amazing. If you can find one that works, they're usually broken. Terminator Salvation.
Yeah.
Which is quite old game. It's quite old game now, isn't it?
Aliens, Extermination, Alien, whatever the other one's called. Honestly, the racing games are probably not as good now as they used to be, in my opinion.
I think the new Mario Kart's fantastic.
Well, they're older ones, so they're from like 2010-ish, roughly.
So you're talking about really modern stuff?
Really modern, very modern stuff, as in like the last 5 years.
Okay.
So right now, what you're seeing is a massive resurgence of light gun shooter games and experience games.
Said,
I didn't know that.
Actually, sorry, I'll retract that statement. You're not seeing a resurgence, just what you're seeing is, in my case, me finding out about these games now that have been there, have always continued to be released. But I only got back into them since I had someone to take the arcade.
For this episode, Mark said to us, I'm not going to tell you what my point is, because he wanted to know he was shocked about it. And actually I am.
I didn't want to tell you beforehand because I don't think the arcades declined. I just think my interest in the arcades declined.
Maybe they evolved and really.
And you've made me think already.
They have, because you've got all these ticket machines and stuff now, redemption machines.
But that's not a big arcade.
They've moved away from what interested me, though, personally. So it's moved into a territory that I'm not.
And that's it. But for me, I was all about the experiences, and now the experiences are what it's all about. So, but even then, I'll play like these bigger games with Logan. So me and Logan will compete on Sega Rally 3 because he's pretty damn good at it too. Grid, the arcade game, and that, all sorts of stuff. H2O Drive is immense.
So the only thing I'll ask you is, at one point, is you're probably doing this on holiday. So you've got your money, you get your job. So you might go in there, but surely you could easily spend £50, £60 with your family.
We'll start with 20 quid each, and we'll have at least another 10 quid each.
Yeah,
after.
So it's quite expensive to go to the arcade.
Well, whenever I've been with you, I've been with you, Logan was a lot younger and all. Ellie, before Ellie was even born, I would just tuck bags and 2 pences and ride them down the shoot.
Well, there's still plenty of them. So Ellie, this is another one, because Ellie's coming up 7 in November, right? So you think, what can you possibly play with her? Well, the redemption machines aren't just like the, pull the fucking bar down and land on 25 tickets or whatever. There's Space Invaders.
I've seen that.
I like this game. I like
you
this.
get about a minute at best.
But it felt
it's
good,
so
though.
good when
You
you
know.
play it.
Yeah, that is good. I've seen
They've got like these shooting games now where you're sat with a gun and it fires water out at the screen and stuff, but it's actually there's skill involved.
Do you know I've played some of those games? My daughter's 22 and she's a gamer, so we've played games that looked and it's basically it's a classic example of that.
Yeah.
I saw it and we went and played it. I didn't even know it was a Redemption Machine.
A ticket machine, yeah.
Yeah, but
absolutely.
I didn't know it was. I just thought that looked cool.
See, I could play that. I could get some enjoyment for that. I mean, and obviously it's got a little bit nostalgia, so you know, like you play. Well, I did play it, but you're playing something that brings you back to when you were youngster as well. You know,
I just wish to dial down the difficulty maybe halfway, just give you an extra 2 minutes, maybe.
Yes, because it's about redemption or about playing.
Yeah.
If they did perhaps the redemption on score and skill,
that was a quick no, wasn't it?
Mainly,
it's a quid, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's I mean, another one, Blackpool. I went to recently. Coral Island in Blackpool is immense. The amount of amazing games in there as well.
It's not even know it's a Halo.
I didn't know that.
Oh, Halo's class. It's like your typical light gun. It's like, have you seen a Transformers cabinet before now?
Yeah.
So think of that, but Halo.
I've seen that. I've seen the quality of that. The graphics.
Really good.
Was that run on PS3 hardware?
Like Xbox 360.
And it was that
era.
So as you do this with your kids, what do you think the evolution of an arcade has become? Is it light guns? Is it driving? Away from what me and Glenn would call.
It's funny you mentioned those two genres already, because I think
in all the arcades I have been in the last 5 years, and it's a lot. Okay, I have never ever seen a cabinet. Yet.
Okay. Well, you mean like a stand-up sort of classic?
Saddens is mine, because if I like I said earlier in the episode, if I walked in and it had a little corner and I had a golden axe or a double dragon, I'd be like, Ellie, come and watch this, and I'd bob 50 pence in or whatever and finish it.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, I'd come away feeling like smug as fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Still got it.
I've still got
the
it.
old man's still got it.
I say I'd like to see that. I would like to see that in every single modern arcade, just a tiny little corner where,
like we mentioned earlier, floor space. No one's going to play on them.
But that's the irony being.
Many would be, though.
In and of themselves, I mean, you've got your little one up there, and I know it's shorter, but the base is about the size of a normal.
Well, I'd like to think anybody like watching this now or listening to this now would be the type of person who'd play on it. Like they'd play on one of them cabinets.
So what I would say is I say my daughter's into gaming. She studied at university to do that. And we go to conventions, whether that's Comic-Con. We used to go to one called Insomnia in Birmingham, and that's all about gaming, that one. But there is a section for retro gaming, and they have every computer we talk about on the podcast there. And you can go and play them free. So they'll have a NES and a SNES, and they'll have all the games, and they'll have a few more modern ones. You can go and play. I mean, they have a hall where you can connect up your PC or you can connect up your Xbox, and you can all community play on the LAN. But it's a community of like-minded people. But also then in that area though, you've got the people that sell retro games, which is something we've spoken about before. Yourself, you do that.
Yeah,
and it's still there in the gaming community, but it's interesting to know that actually it doesn't sound like it's dead. And what you said, I'm quite intrigued by that.
Okay. I don't think.
Well, this is my point. I don't think the arcades died ever. I just think they evolved, and I think you said that.
Well,
they
died to you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, to me, because it said that is. I'm not saying it's a horrible experience, because it's not. It's fun, but in a different way. But again, I say I'm a creature of nostalgia, I think, and so I miss that. I missed having that sort of, let's walk in and let's have a line of different cabs from either 80s and early, maybe the mid-90s, Which
segues us into our final point of the day, I think,
Yes,
Glenn.
I think it does, actually, yeah. I know.
And if we all agree, I think it might be a good time to bring up the point of the retro arcades.
Which, I think is a fantastic thing. They're not without problems. I'd like to mention, one of the biggest and most well-known is the Galloping Ghost Arcade in America, and I think what they do is absolutely out of this world. You've got, the thing is, what's great about Galloping Ghost and all is, though, they don't have, like, the more, they do have the conventional machines that we know from the 80s and 90s, but they tend to deal in a lot of prototypes and stuff that was
and I think
weird sort of versions that might have not seen the light of day and that,
I really agree with that, and I appreciate that and the amount of work that goes into. I think it's brilliant.
Because it's almost unique. Well, in fact, it is.
It's got a new experience.
Is unique, right? Well, I mean, it's quite well known now. If anyone is listening and interested, I mean, they've got a Primal Rage 2 cabinet. I mean, that's well known now with people. They've got many more obscure prototypes that people wouldn't know about. But this, I mean, yeah, there's emulation software to play most of these now, including
when
Primal
you say prototype. For me, is it a prototype or something that was just never released?
It could be a few things, mate, to be honest, because it can be like Primal Rage 2, again, was unreleased.
It must be finished, though.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, no, not at all. I mean, now, to take that game as one example, I'm going to take another as well in a second, but to take that game as one example, Primal Rage 2 is kind of complete. It's buggy and it's a bit glitchy. It's a bit janky here and there, but if you look at some videos, it's a fully playable game. It's got endings and all the characters.
It's not as good as Pit Fighter, but it's
that's great, honestly. But
was there a Pit Fighter 2?
There was Guardians of the Hood, and there was going to be a Pit Fighter 2, but that was going to be a home game.
We'll keep Guardians of the Hood for another day for you.
I would like, maybe if we touch on about prototypes and that, but that's an interesting one.
I'm just going to walk over to say hello.
We'll make a lot of Pit Fighter out of them, yes.
There is the thing about Galloping Ghost, what they've done is, and I mean, I do agree with this because it's the only way you can have it. In many cases, they have the original PCB, and they'll create a cabinet. Either they'll create the cabinet from a more common game, which I am a bit up in arms about to some degree. Sometimes they create a cabinet from scratch to obviously have something to house this prototype PCB in. So in the case of Primal Rage 2, that's what's been done. They've used new artwork and stuff, but they've also got stuff like a Judge Dredd arcade game, which again, and that is a true
SNES game.
Oh, this is this is not the Acclaim game. This is more like it looks a bit like a cross between Pit Fighter, funny enough, and Narc. But it's a true prototype in the sense that it's actually incomplete. After you've completed like 3 levels, you get a message that says, "Come back next time." Basically, well, we finished the game. We have, but obviously, I don't want to spend too much time on Galloping Ghost because you've got a lot to talk about. That is like one of the first that I know of, and the most probably the most successful.
Yeah,
because they do have such a massive arcade. This is not a plug for them, although if you're American, you should go and visit. And it's just I've looked at the list of the stuff, and they've got new stuff all the time. They've got like I don't know what's the name of the game. They've not Alien Carnage. There's another Atari fighting game that Cyberstorm it's called, robots fighting each other and stuff.
Yeah.
Again, ultra rare prototypes. So although they do deal with like classic games that everyone would have seen and some of the more common stuff as well, they've got things that you'll just never see anywhere. We've got some places in the UK, So
well, before we get into a bit more about that, I do want to vent one anger I have at these retro arcades, and that is if you are the type of arcade operator who has a MAME machine in your retro arcade,
it's not a retro arcade.
You're the type of person I want to kick in the dick, because at the end of the day, if you want me to put some tokens in that when I can just do it at home, at least have a legitimate arcade cabinet there with the game in. That's more like it.
Don't give me a 50 games to pick from.
Well, I want to play.
I don't want to play a MAME machine. No. I want to play the original arcade machine. Do you know what it is, though?
I want to play devil's advocate for a second, right? And this might sound... I know.
If you say something I don't agree with, I'm going to kick you in the dick. If I can find it.
I do agree that I don't want to be paying money to be able to play a MAME game that might not even be emulated 100%. But if you're walking in, if that operator makes his arcade look and feel just like a 90s, 90s arcade,
I get that.
He has the cabinets that look originally, enough they're not, in the reproductions, and he's got the feel and this, I can see that you're not just paying to play the game, you're paying for the atmosphere.
I think that if you have 1 or 2 of those, because there's some games that are expensive.
I
can't do it. But if you've still got Double Dragon, you might have Pac-Man. If you've got a couple of those original ones,
do you know what it is?
that'd be nice. That'd be nice.
Do you know what the worst part of it is? So me being a massive advocate for emulation makes us a complete.
I know you try to say hypocrite,
but it's like,
you don't want to pay for it extra, no?
Yeah, and
as long as you don't pay for it via Nintendo expansion pack, because
obviously don't have the license to sell, play those games.
The thing is, right? We went to Nurg and that a while back, which I know is not. Technically, it's not. I don't know. It's not an arcade as such, but because it's got arcade machine, you pay a ticket to the door. We played this game, Golden Axe. Funny enough.
Oh, here we go.
It was.
It was definitely original. It was an original PCB, clearly, and it was an original cabinet. And it crashed. And so some of this old hardware now, it's
basically Glenn played too good, and it just gave up.
No, I think Lieutenant Bit.
I think so. To play again, I guess Devil's Advocate almost immediately is. If the three of us went, do you know what, let's have a pint and let's go and play a couple of games, would we really care it was on me? If we were out of
Didn't get us wrong. Look, if you were playing that machine that was in the middle of like a regular pub or that was just in a convention where you were told everything was original, it wasn't, that would have a problem with that.
That would annoy you,
but, like I say, if the guy who created this arcade, built this arcade from scratch, had deliberately went with something that was like I say, the decor and all that, and the feel and that. Maybe people will smoke and drink.
Look, at the end, maybe I was a bit harsh.
If it weren't too expensive.
Mr. Retro Arcade Operator, I'm not really going to kick you in the dick. I appreciate what you're doing. I know it's a gamble what you're doing.
It's just going to punch you in it.
But it's more... Somebody's going to play on that because you could have 10,000 games on that one machine. It'd probably take you longer to pick through them.
I'll be honest with you, mate, I'd rather it be down to the controls. If the controls were not
that's a good point.
That'd be different.
If you pick something like Double Dragon 2 and your controls are back to front, then Dick's getting kicked.
Yeah, that's it's so annoying though. You're right. Emulation.
Punch left, right.
It won't be a back kick, so it'll be a punch by accident. But
to be fair, you guys got me into Streets of Rage 2, and I actually asked you where the car was to bomb people, and you went, "Oh, they're taking that out."
Yeah. Streets of 1,
right? But yeah, I think generally the retro arcade thing, like I said there, a lot of respect to the people who open these.
I'm glad it's a thing.
I think you're taking a big gamble. It's a small niche. I think you're aiming at. Like our age, like you said earlier, Jamie, during our break, because we didn't rehearse again, but we talked a little bit about these things. You're looking at a specific age of people, I think, who have nostalgia for these things.
Yeah.
But a lot of people...
And potentially money to burn.
Yeah, with money to burn as well. So, a spare 20 quid to go and spend a couple of pints and all.
Some will have a bar because they know we'll go out and have a couple of pints.
I think most of them have a bar, to be honest.
We're getting pretty sick of loud music and stuff like that, so we'd rather play arcades than hear the Turtles theme.
Yeah, again, brings you back to the day,
I think the problem you've got, one, you don't have the place covered in smoke. Right. 2, you don't have fag burns in your arcade machines. 3, you don't have rowdy kids trying to punch each other because they want to play Street Fighter 2 first. So you're missing a lot of that experience that you had and that you're nostalgic for as well. The machines are nowhere near as loud as they used to be when you used to go in the arcades, right? Because there's such a thing called hearing issues now. You've got to be careful about noise overload and stuff. You're fighting a losing battle, I think, with... You're going to have these people in nostalgic because they want to go play, but how quickly does that turn the rose tintedness?
I think what you described to me, like I say, you didn't speak to me about what you were going to say. So, but what you explained was you go there, and they have all these modern ones, and the best way of doing it would be just to have a really good corner of a few games where you go, come and watch your old man play this.
Then you have a bit of
everything.
It's like the upkeep on those old machines as well.
Yeah, Glenn will know that better than anyone. The upkeep on those machines.
I understand that there's a lot of money involved depending on what it is. I said, obviously, again, if you've got your Lux cabinets and that, which I watch a lot of arcade collectors and owners on YouTube and that, and there's some great people on there who have collections that are out of this world. Obviously, all original hardware. Some of this stuff's absolutely fantastic, but it says a lot of it goes down quickly, and it can be hundreds and thousands just to fix the cabinets themselves. So
I'll tell you what, I'm going to put something out there now. If you're a retro arcade operator or even an arcade operator and you've got plenty of machines out there, drop us a message. Because we'd love to come and visit you.
Do you know what I find?
Especially if you're within 100 miles or something. I'd love to do that.
Do you know we can give you a mention, give you a shout out. pop you on one of our podcasts. Why not? We need to support retro games.
This is what I'm going to say, right? I mean, it said going back to what I'm saying about arcade collectors and operators. I think it's more of a hobby for the individual. So if you're going to try and make a business out, just a pure business out of it, it might not do as well as you want. I mean, again, going back to Galloping Ghost for a second, they have a special niche because they're so big and they've got stuff that just, and they advertise so well. They're everywhere.
Isn't Sega World closed?
Sega World, Japan, yeah.
Yes. I did with Japan, yeah.
So therefore, Sega World, which should work, didn't. And they've got all the money in the world to chuck at it, and it didn't.
And somewhere like Japan that are very protective over their retro and very fond of it.
You wouldn't believe that would happen, would you?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose, man, you quickly just talking about Japan for a second, though. They go into so much,
Japan, we've got that next episode.
That's interesting stuff. Yeah, you could bring that up.
I'll just say that, obviously, the retro stuff comes a lot more than just games.
I'm happy to spoil what the next episode is. We're going to...
We're going around the world.
We're going to do, what's the best... Well, because I haven't thought of a title yet. The gaming culture around the world according to the locations of Street Fighter 2. That's your twist. So I think it'll be a good, interesting episode, so please tune in for that. But anyway, back to this one.
And listen to the plane going from one to the other. I'm sure you all know that.
That and the noise, the little music, and Japan. They'll be in there.
That wasn't scripted. But like I say as well, I think if you had a warehouse and you were quite a rich guy and you had a lot of games and you were allowing people to enter you, I mean, you probably have to get a license and everything, all sorts.
You're allowing people to enter you.
Yeah, that's you stopped at the wrong point there, but
allowing people to enter your warehouse and maybe pay you to your warehouse, and that's going to sound wrong,
you've given it a nickname.
You know? Is it like 8mm? The Nicolas Cage film that turns into like a weird snuff movie or something, with machine standing behind you while trying to play a game.
Do you know what I probably find really horrible? We talked about a warehouse, right? I bet there are people though that actually have their own collection of stuff. And I have one of these, right? I have a gaming collection, but they've probably got the arcades, originals, and it's all just stored.
Oh, of course.
And they won't touch it.
These are the guys I've looked at, and I mean, some of these do that, and some of them have them set up to place. I mean, they've got them in garages. Some blokes have like half a dozen machines in garages. But imagine if you had a big enough area to put about 20 machines.
What I'd love, right, is somebody reaches out, right? Somebody, who has one of these retro arcades, their own personal collection.
Private.
Reaches out, these guys need a bit of a leg up. Let's get them down here. And we'll get an invite to somewhere. And it's like, look at what I've got here. We'll just allow them to play on it all day.
Well, I spoke to a guy a little while back who I could try and get in touch. I only spoke to him through the comments because he went to a guy called Craig. I can't remember his second name now, but his username is Ordine, and he hangs about UK Vac, and he owns that Rare Rise the Robot arcade machine that I want. And he had pictures and video of it there. Wow. And he says, look, I'll try and get some more photos of it in time, but he hasn't been back, and that was 2 years ago now. I haven't spoken for a while. It was literally just a message.
We need a gaming on the brain road trip down to somewhere and something like that. Don't I
said this is what this guy does. He goes around the country and that and checks out collections. But I'm saying if you could turn your collection into like almost like a commercial, an actual commercial thing and all, and charge a small amount of money for people to play it as well.
You know what though? It's different people's passion. So if you manage to find an arcade machine that you loved, you converted the graphics back, the external cabinet graphics, the light, you got rid of the fag burns, you got it perfect.
I don't know.
It's like a car.
I don't know if I'd want to restore it.
No, I know you wouldn't, but some people might.
Yeah, some people would.
Yeah,
but then you'd be better off.
You'd
be better off getting trying to get hold of the original design drawings
and making it,
and then just getting it reprinted, bit like remade. Because you can obviously laser cut wood and laser.
See, I'm a purist, me though. I know this might. Nobody might completely agree with.
It wouldn't be original anymore.
I'd rather have. Say I wanted a Pac-Man machine, which is not that rare. Funny enough, if I wanted a Pac-Man machine, I'd want an original Pac, even if it was battered to hell, and it had.
That's an original Pac-Man machine. I'll sell you 10 grand.
10 grand, 10 grand. Give you 5.
Right.
But say it was an original Pac-Man machine, and it had a bit of battering, which and a few fag burns, which I like to call patterner. Really, even though it's not really. I'd rather have that with its damage than have reproductions, because to me it's like, well, it's still not the original, but it's getting harder and harder now to find the originals, which is why when we went to NERG the other year, you're seeing a lot of PCBs in just generic cabs, you know? You're not seeing a lot of artwork anymore, because people, I mean, these things weren't built to be, they weren't built to be kept or collected, they were built for people who want to make money, and when he stops making money, he smashes it up.
Yeah, they would have smashed them up. That's the horrible thing.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. There's stuff that's gone for good, or there might be 2 examples left.
I mean, I don't know.
Sundance as a rare cabinet, you know.
I mean, you guys, this is going to be a little bit off key, but when you had a video shop, you go down there, and they'd always have like a 3D stand-up cardboard thing. Rambo 3 was massive. It was almost as tall as me.
And it got scrapped at the end of it.
No, I took it.
Good.
Nice. They gave it to me. And I was like, can I have that? And they went, yeah, when the film's finished.
Yeah.
I took that. It was in my bedroom for about 2 years.
Excellent.
Have you still got it?
No, God, no, I wish I did. I've only got the Mario, the movie poster. And I mean the movie.
The original 90.
Which has the light gun in it.
That film wasn't actually that bad, to be fair, mind. It was.
My drunken pleasure.
Well, there you go.
Speaking of, have you seen that the new one, Super Mario Galaxy?
Yes.
That'll be really good. The first one was brilliant, like the new one, you know.
And I'm pretty sure you feel that re-releasing Galaxy and Galaxy 2 is a rip.
It's very expensive.
It is expensive.
But there's 2 outstanding games.
Oh, amazing, yeah.
Yeah, I must have. I've only ever finished the first one, but my God, was that a good game. That was very, very
well,
good.
I mean, it was weird.
See, I never played them, because again, I've moved away from modern gaming, you know.
Still stuck in the 89 and 94 era.
I
enjoyed that.
You
probably would enjoy it. It was
fighters, you know.
As well.
I tell you what, he beat the shit out of Super Mario World. Locked all of the secret levels. I remember watching him do it. Tubular and everything.
I beat like with Tubular. I looked at a guide on how to get Tubular completed, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because that's just too hard. So I was like, wait, there's a blue Yoshi. So I started used him to fly over instead. But this is when I had patience.
I think we're moving on to other things here, so let's wrap this up. Everyone, thank you very much for watching. As I said at the start, you might need a box of tissues. Hopefully we've invoked a few nostalgic moments for you.
Well, I would like to add, though, mind, just quickly with retro arcades. No, 5 seconds. Like with retro arcades, though, look, if you do own one, or if you're intending to open one, still go for it anyway. Just try. I mean, give it a go, because if you've got the right combination of machines and possibly the right decor, you know, it might take off. Some don't, some do. It might depend on what you're charging as well.
Get a fog machine, right, for the smoke. Make sure you make it smell like smoke. Then make your carpets really sticky. Employ a lot of school children to run around and punch people and call them dickheads. And don't use tokens, because they put people off. Make sure you use 10p pieces, even though you probably can't get them anymore.
The big ones,
And instead of it being over 21s, make it over 45s.
Yes, that might work. And on that note, let's call it a day.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks everyone for watching.
Good night, God bless.
Tune in next time as well, because we've got that gaming culture from around the world, which I'm really excited about.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, we've got a few ideas for that one.
Thanks everyone. Take care. Good night.
Good night.
Cheers, guys.
Let it hit 'em.